The wind howled like a wounded animal as thunder cracked over the ragged rooftops of Mill Hollow. A wall of sleet lashed the town's one muddy street, driving even the drunkards and card players inside. But one man stood in the open, rain soaking into his long coat, hat low over his eyes as he stared through the saloon window. Elias Carver didn't flinch when a bottle shattered inside. He didn't move when a woman screamed. He just watched. Inside, behind the streaked glass, a girl was being pulled forward by her elbow, her belly round beneath a patched dress. She looked barely 17. Her hair was plastered to her face, her lips chapped, blood on her cheek. She didn't cry. That had been beaten out of her a long time ago. The woman dragging her forward, thin, wild-eyed, already deep in the bottle, shouted to the room, "Start the bidding, boys. Fresh blood, ripe and ready. Comes with a bonus too." She pointed to the girl's stomach and laughed. No one laughed with her. Even the filthiest men in that room looked away, ashamed or afraid of being seen looking. One man muttered, "Hell, Edith," but no one stopped her. Elias stepped through the saloon doors without a word. Water pooled around his boots. The room quieted. He reached into his coat, pulled out a weathered pouch, and dropped it on the bar. A soft clink. Gold coins. Edith froze mid-laugh. "Well now," she said, eyes darting. "Didn't think the ghost rancher even had a tongue." Elias looked at the girl. She looked at the floor. "She yours?" he asked. Edith sneered. "My daughter. Ain't she something?" Elias met the girl's eyes then. Hollow. No light. He nodded once. "I'll take her," he said, voice low. Edith lunged for the gold, cackling. "She's yours, cowboy. Good luck gettin' her to talk." Elias turned, rain already washing over him again as he stepped back outside. Behind him, the saloon roared to life once more, coins, cards, curses. The girl hesitated in the doorway, arms crossed over her stomach. Elias didn't look back, just started walking. After a moment, she followed. The ride home was silent. The storm made it slow. His wagon creaked under the weight of soaked timber and blankets. He didn't speak. She didn't ask. When the wheel hit a rut and jolted them both, she stifled a cry. He handed her his coat without a word. His ranch sat miles from the last house on the edge of town, nestled against a dark ridgeline where pine trees bent in the wind like old men in prayer. The house was 2 stories, built with thick logs and silent memories. No light showed through the windows. It hadn't seen company in years. He led her inside, lit a lantern. The warmth of the hearth hadn't been kindled yet this season. Still, it smelled of cedar and old books. "You can take the room upstairs. Second door," he said, not looking at her. She didn't move. "There's water in the basin. Firewood behind the stove." Still she stood there, dripping, arms wrapped tight around her middle. He sighed. "I ain't gonna touch you." At that, she looked up, just for a second. And for the first time, Elias saw what lived behind her silence. Fear, yes. But something worse, resignation. She nodded, climbed the stairs slowly. He spent the rest of the night splitting wood. Not because he needed it. Because he couldn't sleep. In the morning, he made her eggs. Left them on the table. Went outside to tend the animals. When he came back, the plate was empty. By the 3rd day, she spoke. "You gonna sell me again?" Elias was mending a fence post when she asked. He looked up slowly, sun in his eyes. "No. Why not?" He thought for a moment. "I bought you from hell. That's all." She didn't reply. Just sat on the porch rail, watching the fields roll in golden silence. That night, he found her curled on the couch with a blanket he didn't remember putting there. She hadn't gone back upstairs. A lamp burned low beside her. He reached to turn it off. "Clara," she said softly. "What?" "My name. Clara May." He paused, hand still hovering near the lamp. "All right, Clara May." In the weeks that followed, they became a rhythm. Not a family. Not friends. Just a rhythm. Elias would rise before dawn, chop wood, feed the livestock. Clara would stay in the house, read old books, sweep the porch, sometimes hum to herself. She didn't ask questions. Neither did he. But slowly, things shifted. One morning, she was in the barn before he was. Mucking stalls. "You don't have to," he said. "I want to." She winced when she stood up straight. He noticed her hand on her lower back, the way she bit down on pain. "How far along?" he asked. 7 months. Maybe more. "You sure it's just one?" She smiled for the first time then. "Just a flicker. Feels like a damn army." That night, he brought in an old rocking chair from the attic. Set it by the fire. She sat in it without a word. He carved a block of wood for hours at the table, knife moving slowly in his calloused hand. She watched him over the rim of her tea. "You got family?" she asked. He didn't answer right away. "Used to," he said. "Wife. Boy." She nodded, didn't press. Some wounds didn't need poking. But later, she left something on the table, a dried flower she'd found, pressed between pages of a book. He didn't say thank you, but he kept it. The ranch was quiet, mostly. But not untouched. One morning, Elias found tracks near the chicken coop. Not animal. Human. Barefoot. They circled once, then vanished toward the woods. He followed the trail through the frostbitten trees, hand resting on his rifle. He didn't know what he was looking for. Bandits? Stragglers? Instead, he found a skinned rabbit laid neatly on a flat stone near his old trapline. Still warm. Someone had left him a gift. From the ridge above, a figure watched. Tall, silent, wrapped in buckskin and feathers. Face unreadable. Elias stared up. The figure didn't move. He raised his hand once, in silent acknowledgement. The figure was gone a moment later. That night, Clara asked, "Someone out there?" Elias didn't lie. "Maybe. You scared?" He looked into the fire for a long moment. Not of him. She smiled again, just barely. "Me neither." And for the first time, he thought maybe, just maybe, he wasn't alone anymore. Still, he didn't know what this was between them. Not love. Not yet. But something stronger than pity. Something like understanding. He didn't sleep that night. Instead, he sat by the fire, carving a cradle from oak, piece by piece, as wind howled outside and the snow began to fall again. Winter clung to the hills like a warning, sharp and bitter. Each morning brought deeper frost, and Elias found himself checking the perimeter fence more often, listening for sounds that didn't belong, cracked twigs, distant hooves, the unnatural hush before danger. He trusted the land. He didn't trust the men who sometimes drifted through it. Clara had taken to reading out loud now. She didn't know he listened. She'd sit near the fire, fingers splayed over her belly, reading from whatever old volume she found in the ranch's modest shelf. Poetry. Sermons. A book on stars. The baby kicked often. She began to smile more. Sometimes laugh. But it was always brief, like joy still felt unnatural on her skin. One morning, Elias came in from the barn to find her staring out the window, rigid. Her knuckles were white against the windowsill. "What is it?" She didn't speak. He followed her gaze, just trees, wind pressing snow from their branches. Then he saw it. The line of smoke. Thin. Distant. But wrong. Elias grabbed the rifle from the wall and stepped outside. The cold bit through his sleeves like needles. He took the trail northeast, through the dense stands of pine, toward where the smoke curled into the sky. Half a mile in, he saw the remains of a camp. Ashes still warm. A rabbit hanging from a tree by its feet, untouched. No prints. No horses. But something else, a carved piece of driftwood shaped like a hawk, placed on a stump. Deliberate. A sign. He turned back, uneasy. That night, he set an extra lock on the door. Moved his rifle closer to the bed. He didn't speak of the hawk carving, and Clara didn't ask. But her eyes followed him more now, full of questions she didn't want to voice. By the end of the week, he saw the figure again. At the edge of the tree lean. Watching. This time, Elias went to him. It took time. He moved slow, rifle slung but untouched, hands visible. The man didn't move, not until Elias was 20 paces away. He was younger than Elias had expected. Face painted in earth tones, body lean and still as a stone. A feather braided into his hair. A knife at his belt. "You left the rabbit," Elias said. Silence. "You been watching?" Still silence. But something shifted in the man's gaze, not threat. Not welcome. Something else. Curiosity. Elias hesitated. Then, finally, extended the hawk carving. "Yours?" The man looked at it, then took it gently in both hands. A slow nod. "Why?" Elias asked. The man looked toward the ridge, then to the west, toward town. "Bad men," he said finally. Voice gravelly. "Coming." Elias stared. "How many?" "4. Maybe 5. One wears red. Rides black. He smells of iron and fire." Elias knew what that meant. Blood. He nodded slowly. "You got a name?" The man didn't answer. But he didn't leave either. That night, Elias told Clara. She sat stiff on the edge of the bed, holding her belly. "They're coming for me," she said quietly. Elias didn't deny it. "Could be." She looked at him. "You could send me away." "I could. But you won't." "No." Clara breathed out slowly, a flicker of steel rising behind her fear. "Then we prepare." In the following days, they fortified the ranch. Reinforced the doors. Nailed planks across the cellar hatch. Elias taught Clara how to load a revolver. Her hands shook at first, but by the third try, her aim was true enough to stop a man. The stranger came back again, just before dusk. Watched from the fence line. This time, Elias waved him in. He entered the yard slowly, as if unsure he was welcome. Clara stood on the porch, hand resting on her hip. "You got a name?" she asked. He looked at her for a long moment. "Chaska," he said at last. "Means firstborn," Elias murmured. Chaska nodded. Clara tilted her head. "You helping us, Chaska?" "I saw what she was," he said. "What he is." Elias raised a brow. "What do you see?" Chaska looked at them both. "People worth protecting." That night, they ate together. Chaska barely touched his stew. Clara kept glancing at him when she thought he wasn't looking. The silence was less tense now. More like a rhythm adjusting itself. By the third day, tracks showed near the river. Heavy boots. Multiple sets. "They're scouting," Elias said. "Won't be long now." He sat with Chaska by the fire, the old map of the property laid across the table. Chaska traced paths with his finger, marking where trees gave good cover and where dry grass would crunch beneath careless boots. "We catch them before they reach the house," he said. "Strike from the ridge. Then vanish." Clara watched from the doorway, arms crossed, fear masked with quiet resolve. "What if they come at night?" she asked. "Then we hold them off. You stay low. Keep the revolver. You shoot if they get close." She didn't nod. Just turned away and went to the cradle Elias had built. He watched her place a small bundle inside, a tiny pair of knitted socks. The day before the attack, the sky turned yellow-gray, thick with snow and tension. The wind no longer whispered. It hissed. Clara woke Elias in the middle of the night. "It's time," she whispered, voice thin with pain. His heart sank. "Now?" She nodded, teeth clenched. "The baby's coming." He lit the lantern, hands already trembling. "Chaska," he shouted, panic rising. "We need help." Chaska entered silently, took one look at Clara, and nodded. "I'll guard. You deliver." "I don't." "Yes, you do." Elias found himself kneeling beside her as she lay on the floor beside the fire, sweat on her brow, hands gripping his tightly. "You can leave," she hissed between contractions. "You didn't ask for this." "I'm not leaving." She cried out as another wave hit her. He wiped her forehead. "Breathe. That's it. You're stronger than this pain." Outside, the wind screamed louder. Chaska stood near the window, bow in hand, unmoving. By dawn, the baby came. Tiny. Red-faced. Wailing like he was already fighting the world. Clara sobbed as Elias placed the child into her arms, his own eyes misting. "A boy," he whispered. "You've got a son." Clara looked at him through exhausted tears. "We've got a son." He didn't answer. Just touched the baby's small hand and felt something loosen in his chest. Something long locked away. But the peace didn't last. From the ridge, Chaska gave a sharp whistle. A warning. Elias grabbed the rifle. Looked at Clara, still too weak to stand, but clutching the child fiercely. "They're here," he said. Clara's voice was low but unflinching. "Then make sure we're still here when they're gone." Elias stepped outside, snow swirling around his boots. In the distance, 5 riders approached, dark shapes against the pale dawn, guns slung low, eyes full of hunger. He didn't wait for them to speak. He raised his rifle. And pulled the trigger. The first shot cracked through the icy morning like a whip, echoing off the hills. One of the riders dropped from his saddle, slumping into the snow without a sound. The others didn't flinch, they spurred their horses harder. Elias ducked behind the woodpile, breath misting. His heart thundered in his ears, not from fear, but from something deeper, instinct. He wasn't just protecting a home anymore. He was protecting a life. 2 lives. Chaska's arrow flew next, silent, swift. It buried itself in the neck of the second rider, who tumbled backward off his mount, clawing at the shaft with blood-slicked fingers. Still, 3 remained. They dismounted now, rifles raised, spreading out like wolves circling prey. One wore a red scarf. He moved with the lazy confidence of a man who'd done this before. He barked a sharp order, and the others flanked wide. Inside the cabin, Clara held her newborn tight against her chest, crouched low behind the bed. The revolver lay beside her, cocked and ready. Her hands shook, but her eyes didn't blink. Elias shifted his position, flanking toward the barn. He had 6 shots left. No time to miss. A bullet split the log beside his head. He rolled, fired back, caught a glimpse of one man dropping behind a rock. Then silence. The kind that presses against your eardrums, waiting to shatter. From the corner of his eye, Elias saw Chaska sprint low across the snow, closing in from the trees. Another crack. Elias felt heat graze his arm, close. He hissed, gritting his teeth, fired again. This time, the man in the red scarf jerked back, staggering. Elias stood, exposing himself, and fired once more. The bullet struck home. Red fell. The last one came charging, gun blazing. Elias Dove rolled behind the water trough, glass shattering around him. He fumbled for another cartridge, breath steaming, blood seeping from his grazed arm. Then a blur, Chaska. He moved like wind. The last bandit turned too late. Chaska's knife flashed in the morning light, slicing clean across the man's wrist. The gun fell. Chaska didn't stop, he drove forward, knocking the man down, pinning him with a knee to the chest. Silence again. Elias stood slowly. Snow fell in soft drifts now, the storm easing. He walked to Chaska, rifle lowered. The last man coughed blood, glaring up at them. "Where's the rest?" Elias asked. The man spat red. "No rest. Just us. Just wanted what's ours." "She's not yours," Elias said coldly. "She never was." The bandit smiled with broken teeth. "She was sold. Just goods, that girl. You paid her price." Elias raised his rifle. But Chaska held up a hand. Then looked to the trees. "Let the wind take him," he said. The man would not survive the cold, not bleeding like that. Elias didn't argue. He turned back toward the cabin. Inside, Clara was sitting upright, revolver still in hand. The baby cried softly, nestled against her skin. Her face was pale but calm. "It's over," Elias said. She didn't speak, just looked at him with a mix of exhaustion and awe. He crossed the floor, knelt beside her, touched the baby's cheek. "He's warm. That's good." Clara's voice was faint. "You came back. Always would've." Snow drifted in through the cracked door, laying a soft blanket on the floorboards. Chaska stepped inside, glancing between them. His hands were stained but steady. "You'll have more come," he said. "Others who think like them." Elias nodded. "Then we stay ready." Clara reached out and touched Chaska's arm. "Thank you." He looked down at her, and for the first time, smiled. Just slightly. A quiet crease in a face carved by silence. Days passed. They buried the dead in the woods, far from the cabin. Marked only by stones. The snow covered them fast. Elias built a new gate. Stronger. Reinforced. He taught Clara how to maintain the rifle. Taught her where to stand if it came again. The child, Matthew, she called him, grew stronger with each sunrise. His cries grew louder. His grip, tighter. One night, Elias held the boy while Clara slept. Chaska stood outside, silent beneath the stars. "You staying long?" Elias asked when he joined him. Chaska didn't answer for a while. Just looked to the horizon. "Winter's not done. Wolves hunt hungry." Elias nodded. "You've got a place here. If you want." Chaska looked at him, then toward the door where the light flickered behind the window. "This place has heart," he said. That was all. The wind howled once more in the distance, but inside the cabin, there was warmth. Clara stirred in her sleep, reaching instinctively toward the cradle. And Elias, holding the small child close, whispered something that surprised even himself. "You saved me too." Not long after, Chaska left quietly at first light. No goodbyes. Just a hawk carving left on the fence post. Clara found it. Elias didn't move it. They knew what it meant. Spring came late that year. The thaw brought mud, swollen rivers, and green fighting through the frostbitten earth. Life, stubborn and slow, but certain. Clara walked farther now, baby wrapped tight against her chest. She sang sometimes, half-remembered lullabies, soft and cracked. Elias watched her from the barn one afternoon, her figure framed by melting snowbanks and tall pines. The sight didn't steal his breath, it returned it. He went to her, boots sinking into the softening earth. Clara looked up, shielding her eyes from the light. "You were right," she said. "About what?" "This land. It doesn't forget. It just waits." He stepped beside her, looked at the horizon. The baby stirred between them. "I waited too long," he murmured. Clara didn't correct him. Just reached out and took his hand. They stood like that a long while, three shadows casting long shapes across the land. He wasn't a lonely rancher anymore. And she wasn't someone else's mistake. What they had was hard-won, fragile, and real. Not perfect. Not finished. But enough. Enough to keep fighting for. Enough to stay. Enough to believe in the miracle that found them beneath the snow.